In July 1942, near Leningrad, the 502nd Heavy Panzer Battalion, under Major Richard Freiherr von Rosen, deployed Germany's Tiger I tanks. The number that matters is 1,347 Tigers, produced by August 1944, with 88mm guns firing at 2,000 meters. These steel giants, clad in 100mm frontal armor, thundered onto battlefields, chilling Allied troops. German propaganda cast them as untouchable, spreading tales of single tigers crushing entire columns. Radio intercepts fueled fear, magnifying their aura. Crews reported 88mm rounds piercing T-34 seconds at ranges beyond counterfire. The constraint was production only 1,347, built each demanding 300,000 man-hours. Factories labored under precision demands curbing output. Allied intelligence raced to evaluate this threat, noting its psychological grip. Tigers moved at 28 miles per hour on flat ground, consuming 430 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers. Their presence reshaped early battles, forcing Allied crews to adapt tactics. One Tiger destroyed 12 T-34 seconds in 20 minutes near Rostov, summer 1942. German commanders exploited this mystique, using Tigers to lead assaults. Yet mechanical intricacy loomed large. Each tank required 48 hours of maintenance after 250 kilometers. Propaganda masked these weaknesses, emphasizing kills. The Tiger's 88mm gun, with a muzzle velocity of 930 meters per second, outranged most Allied tanks. Its armor withstood 76mm rounds at 1,000 meters. But numbers told another tale. Germany fielded 1,347 Tigers total, while Allies produced tanks by tens of thousands. The legend soared, but flaws emerged. Maintenance crews struggled with fragile transmissions. Fuel shortages halted units. The Tiger's myth was mighty, but its reality was brittle. In October 1942, near El Alamein, the 15th Panzer Division under Lieutenant General Gustav von Wehrst clashed with Allied forces. The number that matters is 1,347 Tigers, produced by August 1944 each, with an 88mm gun, effective at 2,000 meters. Sherman crews scanning through dust and haze glimpsed the Tiger's towering form and faltered. British 8th Army records noted one Tiger destroying 8 Matildas in 12 minutes at 1,500 meters, November 1942. The 88mm gun's flat trajectory, firing 6 rounds per minute, pierced lighter armor. Crews radioed in. Alarm shells bounce off. It is a beast. German tankers, trained for 3 months on Tiger systems, wielded this fear, engaging where Allied 75mm guns lost potency. The constraint was crew training. Each Tiger needed 5 specialists, slowing deployment. Allied morale wavered as Tigers advanced their 100mm frontal armor, shrugging off 76mm rounds at 800 meters. A cold fact landed one Tiger required 60 hours of repair after 300 kilometers winter 1942. Captured German logs near Tunis revealed tankers' trust in their tanks' prowess. "We hit before they aim," one wrote. Yet Allied crews adapted quickly. Spotters learned the Tiger's wide tracks 30 inches across to distinguish it from Panzer IVs. Artillery barrages firing 150 rounds per hour stalled Tigers. Infantry flanked using hills to close distances. The Tiger's psychological edge eroded as Shermans swarmed in packs, leveraging numbers. German tankers realized their aura faded when Allied artillery and air spotters tracked their routes. December 1942. Only 1,347 Tigers existed, while Shermans poured across fronts, shifting battle tempos. Sherman crews, initially shaken, shared tactics. "Aim for the tracks," one report urged, noting Tigers halted by one precise 75mm hit. The Tiger's myth, built on early clashes, met reality. Its 600-horsepower engine, pushing 60 tons, failed after 250 kilometers without overhaul. Fuel demands 430 liters per 100 kilometers strained German logistics. Allied air forces flying P-40 Warhawks at 15,000 feet spotted Tiger convoys relaying coordinates for bombardments. The 15th Panzer Division's logs showed irritation. Tigers often alone lacked infantry support. Allied combined arms, infantry, artillery, air chipped at their legend. A cold metric emerged. One Tiger's fuel equaled 3 Panzer IVs, starving other units, January 1943. In Tunisia, the shift solidified. German commanders, expecting to dominate, saw Tigers bogged in mud tracks creeping at 10 miles per hour. Allied M3 Grants, though outgunned, used speed to outmaneuver luring Tigers into ambushes. A British report from February 1943 cited 20 Tigers disabled by coordinated artillery and tank traps over 2 days. Sherman crews, now battle-tested, exploited flaws. "We outnumber them 10-1, a sergeant said, referencing the 49,234 Shermans built by war's end. The Tiger's aura, though potent, cracked under pressure. German tankers, once bold, grew cautious, their 1,347 Tigers spread thin. Allied adaptability, not raw power, began dictating engagements, laying groundwork for Germany's wider collapse. In April 1943, near Kasserine Pass, the 10th Panzer Division under Major General Friedrich von Broich challenged Allied lines. The number that matters is 1,347 Tigers produced by August with 1944, each with an 88mm gun penetrating 180mm of armor at 1,000 meters. The Tiger's design stunned observers. Its 100mm frontal armor deflected Sherman's 75mm rounds at 500 meters. The 88mm KBK-36 gun, with a muzzle velocity of 930 meters per second, outclassed Allied tanks. German crews, trained to maximize this edge, destroyed 15 Shermans in 10 minutes at 1,200 meters, February 1943. The constraint was reliability. Mean time between failures was 250 kilometers on rugged terrain. Factories built only 1,347 Tigers each, requiring 300,000 man-hours. The Tiger's engineering prioritized raw power. Its Maybach HL, 230 engine producing 600 horsepower, pushed 60 tons at 28 miles per hour on roads. Tracks 30 inches wide gripped soft ground but strained transmissions. A cold metric emerged. One Tiger needed 48 hours of maintenance after 200 kilometers, spring 1943. Allied reports praised its armor sloped at 10 degrees, repelling rounds at 800 meters. Yet flaws appeared. Interleaved road wheels, 8 per side, clogged with mud, immobilizing tanks. German engineers lauded precision, but complexity delayed repairs. Allied tankers facing Tigers used smoke to obscure gunners' sights. The 10th Panzer Division's records noted Tigers excelling in open terrain, but struggling in tight valleys where Shermans moved at 30 miles per hour. German tankers realized Allied numbers overwhelmed when Shermans attacked in groups of 10, April 1943. The Tiger's gun, firing 6 rounds per minute, could not counter Allied volume. Shermans, with 49,234, produced by 1945, flooded battlefields. Allied crews targeted vulnerabilities, rear armor 60mm thick, penetrable at 300 meters. The Tiger's turret, rotating at 6 degrees per second, trailed faster Shermans. Fuel demands 430 liters per 100 kilometers, crippled mobility as German supply lines weakened. A cold truth hit. One Tiger's production cost matched 5 Panzer IVs, draining resources, May 1943. German commanders, expecting decisive breakthroughs, saw Tigers isolated by Allied infantry and airstrikes dropping 500-pound bombs from 12,000 feet. The Tiger's dominance in one-on-one clashes faded in broader combat. Allied reports from Tunisia logged 22 Tigers, knocked out by combined arms over 3 days, April 1943. Artillery firing 150 rounds per hour disrupted Tiger formations. Shermans, though outgunned, used speed and numbers to encircle. Their armor is strong, but they are sluggish, an Allied officer noted. The 1,347 Tigers, spread across fronts, faced relentless pressure. German crews, once assured of victory, wrestled with breakdowns and fuel shortages. The Tiger's engineering, while formidable, could not offset its scarcity or logistical burdens, paving the way for Allied strategies to exploit quantity and coordination over individual prowess. In July 1943, near Kursk, the Ninth Army under Colonel General Walter Model faced Soviet and Allied forces. The number that matters is 49,234 Shermans produced by 1945 each, with a 75mm gun, effective at 800 meters. The Sherman's reputation suffered from German propaganda, dubbing it the Ronson for catching fire when hit, yet data disproved this. Shermans with 45mm frontal armor resisted Panzer IV 75mm rounds at 1,000 meters after upgrades. The M4A3 model, with a Ford GAA engine producing 500 horsepower, reached 30 miles per hour on roads. The constraint was early ammunition storage. Wet stowage, introduced in 1944, reduced fire risk by 75%. Factories churned out Shermans at 1,000 per month, dwarfing Germany's 1,347 Tigers. Allied crews valued reliability. Shermans averaged 400 kilometers between failures, compared to Tiger's 250 kilometers. A cold metric stood out. One Sherman required 12 hours of maintenance after 150 kilometers, summer 1943. The 75mm M3 gun, firing 10 rounds per minute, matched German Panzer IVs in duels. Upgrades like the 76mm M1 gun penetrating 100mm at 500 meters closed the gap with Tigers. Crews trained in 6 weeks, enabling rapid deployment. German reports from Kursk noted Sherman's speed, evading 88mm fire by maneuvering across open fields. The Ninth Army's tankers realized Sherman's numbers overwhelmed when waves of 20 appeared July 1943. Allied production ensured constant replacements, unlike Germany's strained factories. The Sherman's evolution countered its early flaws. Engineers added sloped armor, increasing effective thickness to 80mm. Tracks 20 inches wide provided stability on mud, unlike Tiger's debris-prone wheels. Fuel efficiency, 200 liters per 100 kilometers, eased logistical strain. A cold fact emerged. One Sherman cost $40,000 versus $200,000 for a Tiger, 1943. Allied air support with P-47 Thunderbolts at 15,000 feet dropped 1,000-pound bombs, disrupting German formations. Shermans operated in platoons using radio coordination to outflank. German crews expecting easy kills found Shermans harder to hit after upgrades. The 49,234 Shermans overwhelmed through sheer volume, reshaping engagements across fronts. The Ronson myth faded as data spread. Allied reports from Kursk cited only 15% of Shermans lost to fires, compared to 40% for Panzer IVs, July 1943. Crew survivability improved with escape hatches and wet stowage. Factories delivered variants M4A1 with cast hulls, M4A3 with welded armor. The Sherman's simplicity allowed field repairs, unlike Tiger's 48-hour overhauls. German commanders stretched thin, cursed their 1,347 Tigers breakdowns, while Shermans rolled relentlessly. The Allied industrial machine producing 49,234 Shermans ensured no front lacked armor. This adaptability and volume, not individual prowess, tilted the battlefield, setting the stage for logistical dominance. In September 1943, near Salerno, the United States Fifth Army under Lieutenant General Mark Clark deployed Shermans against German defenses. The number that matters is 49,234 Shermans produced by 1945 each, averaging 400 kilometers between failures. Factories in Detroit, churning out 1,000 tanks monthly, outpaced Germany's 1,347 Tigers. Shermans weighing 32 tons moved at 30 miles per hour on roads with a Ford GAA engine delivering 500 horsepower. The constraint was early supply chains. Fuel and parts required convoys crossing 8,000 miles of ocean. Yet, Allied logistics, with Liberty ships carrying 50 tanks per voyage, ensured steady supply. Maintenance crews trained in 6 weeks kept Shermans operational, unlike Tiger's specialized repairs. The Sherman's design prioritized simplicity. Its 75mm M3 gun firing 10 rounds per minute was serviced in 12 hours. Tracks 20 inches wide navigated mud without clogging, unlike Tiger's debris-prone wheels. A cold metric stood out. One Sherman consumed 200 litres of fuel per 100 kilometres summer 1943. This efficiency eased strain on Allied supply lines, delivering 800 gallons per tank weekly. German reports from Salerno noted Sherman's rapid redeployment with units returning to combat in 24 hours. The Fifth Army's logs praised repair depots using standardized parts to fix 90% of breakdowns in-field. German tankers realized Sherman's relentless pace overwhelmed when Allied units sustained 2 sorties daily September 1943. Production speed defined the Sherman's edge. American factories, employing 50,000 workers, built tanks for $3,000 per ton compared to Tiger's 6,000. A cold fact hit: one Sherman required 12 man-hours to assemble versus 300,000 for a Tiger 1943. Allied air forces flying C-47 Sky trains at 10,000 feet airdropped spare parts ensuring uptime. Sherman's interchangeability allowed crews to swap engines in 8 hours, while Tigers languished for 48. German supply lines, stretched by fuel shortages, limited Tigers to 1 sortie every 3 days. The 1,347 Tigers, plagued by 430 litres per 100 kilometres, often stalled. Shermans, with 49,234 fielded, flooded every theatre. The logistical backbone proved decisive. Allied depots, stocked with 10,000 spare tracks monthly, kept Shermans moving. German after-action reports from Italy cited frustration. Tigers, immobilized by broken transmissions, faced waves of Shermans. "They repair faster than we shoot a German," officer noted. The Fifth Army's combined arms, infantry, artillery and tanks exploited this. Artillery firing 150 rounds per hour pinned Tigers, while Shermans flanked at 30 miles per hour. By late 1943, Allied production and logistics outmatched Germany's faltering industry. The 49,234 Shermans, supported by robust supply chains, ensured no front lacked armour, paving the way for tactical flexibility and overwhelming force. In June 1944, near Köln, the United States First Army, under Lieutenant General Omar Bradley, unleashed Shermans in Normandy. The number that matters is 49,210 T, 4 Shermans produced by 1945, adaptable to multiple roles, with 75mm guns firing at 800 meters. Shermans evolved beyond standard tanks. Variants like the M4A3E2 Jumbo with 150mm frontal armor led assaults. Tank destroyers mounting 90mm guns penetrated 180mm at 1,000 meters. The constraint was terrain Shermans at 32 tons bogged in soft mud at 15 miles per hour. Yet Allied engineers fitted dozer blades, creating paths in 10 minutes. Factories delivered 1,000 variants monthly, unlike Germany's 1,347 Tigers. Sherman's versatility shone. The M4A3E8 with a 76mm gun matched Panzer IVs at 1,000 meters. Flamethrower variants cleared bunkers, projecting napalm 50 yards. A cold metric stood out: one Sherman variant swapped roles in 6 hours with modular kits summer 1944. Mine-clearing Shermans fitted with flails detonated explosives at 10 miles per hour. Recovery vehicles towed damaged tanks in 8 hours, ensuring 90% battlefield recovery. German reports from Normandy noted Sherman's diversity, with engineering variants breaching hedgerows. German tankers realized versatility trumped raw power when Shermans adapted faster than their 1,347 Tigers, June 1944. Allied logistics shipping 500 tanks weekly kept fronts supplied. The Sherman's adaptability countered Tiger superiority. Its 500-horsepower Ford GAA engine, consuming 200 litres per 100 kilometres, supported rapid redeployment. Tracks 20 inches wide, gripped varied terrain, unlike Tiger's debris-jammed wheels. A cold fact emerged. One Sherman cost $40,000, enabling mass production, versus $200,000 for a Tiger 1944. Allied air forces with P-51 Mustangs at 20,000 feet escorted Sherman columns, dropping 500-pound bombs on German positions. The First Army's logs praised Sherman's flexibility. Amphibious DD tanks swam ashore at 5 knots. German crews, reliant on 88mm guns, struggled against multi-role Shermans, outnumbering them 10-1 with 49,234 fielded. Combined arms amplified Sherman effectiveness. Infantry armed with bazookas penetrating 80mm at 100 meters screened flanks. Artillery firing 200 rounds per hour suppressed Tigers. Allied after-action reports from Caen cited 30 Tigers, knocked out by coordinated attacks over 2 days, July 1944. They are everywhere, in every role, a German officer noted. Sherman's 12-hour maintenance cycle compared to Tiger's 48 hours ensured constant pressure. The 1,347 Tigers, burning 430 litres per 100 kilometres, faltered as fuel dwindled. The Sherman's variants from bridge layers to rocket launchers reshaped battlefields, proving adaptability and numbers outmatched individual prowess, setting the stage for Germany's collapse. In August 1944, near Falaise Gap, the United States Third Army under General George S. Patton encircled German forces with Sherman columns. The number that matters is 49,234 Shermans, produced by 1945, moving at 30 miles per hour on roads. Shermans were the armoured core, but combined arms sealed their dominance. Infantry wielding bazookas penetrating 120mm at 100 meters flanked Tigers. Artillery, 105mm M7 Priests, firing 15 rounds per minute, pinned German armour. The constraint was coordination SCR, 536 radios, with a 1-mile range linked units. Royal Air Force Typhoons, diving at 400 miles per hour from 10,000 feet, dropped 1,000-pound bombs. Allied logistics delivered 50 Shermans daily, dwarfing Germany's 1,347 Tigers. Shermans thrived in integrated tactics. Their 76mm guns, penetrating 100mm at 500 meters, engaged Panzer IVs, while infantry closed gaps. Tracks 20 inches wide navigated mud better than Tiger's 30-inch tracks. A cold metric stood out. One Sherman sortie took 12 hours to prepare summer 1944. Allied spotters using binoculars at 500 meters relayed Tiger positions. P-47 Thunderbolts, carrying 500-pound bombs, struck within 10 minutes. German reports from Falaise noted chaos. Shermans supported by artillery overwhelmed isolated Tigers. German tankers realized their 88mm guns were useless when infantry and air pinned them. August 1944. The 49,234 Shermans ensured no front lacked armor. Artillery and air power amplified Sherman effectiveness. 155mm guns, firing 12 rounds per minute, disrupted Tiger formations at 3,000 meters. A cold fact hit one. Sherman cost $40,000 versus $200,000 for a Tiger, 1944. Infantry squads moving at 4 miles per hour used smoke grenades to blind Tiger gunners. After-action reports cited 35 Tigers destroyed by combined arms in 3 days. August 1944. They hit from all sides, a German officer wrote. Shermans with 200 liters per 100 kilometers maintained relentless pressure, unlike Tiger's 430 liters. German supply lines, strained by 1,347 Tigers, collapsed under Allied bombing. The Falaise pocket showcased Allied synergy. Shermans, averaging 400 kilometers between failures, outlasted Tiger's 250 kilometers. Patton's Third Army, with 500 Shermans, encircled 10,000 German troops. Artillery barrages 200 rounds per hour prevented Tiger breakouts. Typhoons flying 20 sorties daily crippled fuel convoys. The 1,347 Tigers, slowed by 48-hour repairs, could not match Sherman tempo. Allied crews trained in 6 weeks adapted faster than German specialists. The 49,234 Shermans, backed by infantry and air, turned individual Tiger threats into isolated wrecks, proving combined arms and numbers crushed Germany's armoured myth. In October 1944, near Aachen, the United States First Army under Lieutenant General Courtney Hodges pressed German defences with Shermans. The number that matters is 49,000. 234 Shermans produced by 1945, each maneuvering at 30 miles per hour on roads. Allied tactics outsmarted Tiger prowess. Shermans with 76mm guns penetrating 100mm at 500 meters avoided head-on duels. Infantry using M1 carbines at 200 meters screened flanks. The constraint was urban terrain. Narrow streets slowed Shermans to 10 miles per hour. Yet, Allied commanders exploited Tiger weaknesses. Forward observers with SCR 536 radios, ranging 1 mile called P-47, thunderbolts dropping 500-pound bombs from 10,000 feet. Factories delivered 500 Shermans monthly, overwhelming Germany's 1,347 Tigers. Shermans leveraged mobility and numbers. Their 500 horsepower Ford GAA engines, consuming 200 litres per 100 kilometres, enabled rapid flanking. Tracks 20 inches wide gripped cobblestones better than Tiger's debris-prone wheels. A cold metric stood out. One Sherman required 12 hours for maintenance after 150 kilometres, autumn 1944. Artillery. 100 5mm guns, firing 15 rounds per minute, targeted Tiger rear armour, 60mm thick, at 300 meters. German logs from Aachen noted Sherman's relentless waves with 10 tanks per Tiger. German tankers realized their 88mm guns failed when Allied infantry pinned them in streets October 1944. The 49,234 Shermans dictated engagement terms. Allied tactics exploited Tiger limitations. Tigers, burning 430 litres per 100 kilometres, stalled without fuel. Their turrets rotating at 6 degrees per second could not track fast-moving Shermans. A cold fact hit one Sherman cost $40,000 versus $200,000 for a Tiger 1944. P-51. Mustangs flying at 20,000 feet disrupted German supply lines, bombing fuel depots. After-action reports cited 28 Tigers, knocked out by coordinated attacks over 2 days, October 1944. They swarm like ants, a German officer noted. Shermans, with 400 kilometers between failures, outlasted Tigers 250 kilometers. Allied crews trained in 6 weeks adapted tactics faster than German specialists, ensuring constant pressure. The numerical edge shaped outcomes. Shermans supported by infantry and air-isolated Tigers. Bazookas penetrating 120 millimeters at 100 meters crippled tracks. Artillery barrages 200 rounds per hour forced Tigers into defensive positions. The 1,347 Tigers, hampered by 48-hour repairs, could not counter Allied tempo. Hodge's First Army, with 600 Shermans, overwhelmed German lines. The 49,234 Shermans, paired with tactical ingenuity, turned Tiger strengths into liabilities, proving adaptability and volume outmatched individual superiority, hastening Germany's armoured collapse. In March 1945, near the Rhine, the United States 7th Army under Lieutenant General Alexander Patch crushed German resistance with Shermans. The number that matters is 49,200. 34 Shermans produced by 1945 each, sustaining 2 sorties daily at 30 miles per hour. Victory was not about tank kills, but strategic dominance. Shermans with 76mm guns, penetrating 100mm at 500 meters, supported sweeping advances. Infantry with bazookas piercing 120mm at 100 meters cleared paths. The constraint was river crossings. Shermans required pontoon bridges assembled in 12 hours. P-47 thunderbolts dropping 500-pound bombs from 10,000 feet shattered German defences. Allied factories delivered 500 Shermans monthly, dwarfing Germany's 1,347 Tigers. Shermans redefined battlefield success. Their 500 horsepower Ford GAA engines, using 200 litres per 100 kilometres, ensured relentless mobility. Tracks 20 inches wide crossed muddy fields, unlike Tiger's debris-clogged wheels. A cold metric stood out. One Sherman cost $40,000 versus $200,000 for a Tiger 1945. Artillery 105mm guns firing 15 rounds per minute suppressed Tiger's 88mm guns. German reports from the Rhine lamented fuel shortages, with Tigers burning 400 to 30 litres per 100 kilometres. German tankers realised their 1,347 Tigers were stranded when Allied airstrikes hit fuel depots March 1945. Shermans with 49,234 fielded overwhelmed through sheer presence. Logistics and numbers trumped individual power. Shermans averaged 400 kilometres between failures, compared to Tigers' 250 kilometres. Allied depots, stocked with 10,000 spare parts monthly, ensured 90% uptime. A cold fact hit one. Sherman required 12 hours for maintenance, versus 48 for a Tiger Spring, 1945. Combined arms infantry, artillery, air isolated Tigers. After-action reports cited 40 Tigers destroyed by coordinated attacks over 3 days, March 1945. They flood every front, a German officer wrote. Shermans, supported by C-47, Skytrains, air-dropping parts at 10,000 feet, maintained pressure. The 1,347 Tigers, slowed by mechanical failures, could not match Allied tempo or industrial might. Victory hinged on strategic impact. Shermans enabled breakthroughs, securing bridges and supply lines. Their adaptability, flamethrowers, dozers, tank destroyers met every challenge. The 49,234 Shermans, backed by 155mm artillery and air superiority, dictated terms. Tigers, with 1,347 built, were engineering marvels but logistical burdens. Their 88mm guns, penetrating 180mm at 1,000 meters, shone in duels but faltered against waves of Shermans. Allied industry producing 40,000 tanks, more than Germany's total, overwhelmed. The Shermans' volume, reliability, and combined arms integration, not individual kills, won the war, proving numbers and adaptability crushed the Tigers' myth.